What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions. I'm sorry for I had some technical difficulties there earlier, but I would love for you to join my stream right now. I don't have the screen sharing function working right now, but I hope that you can tune in right now. So right now, when we look at the betting odds between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, we can see that it is as close as it has been since early May. So Donald Trump has been getting blown out in terms of the betting odds, and what we see the betting odds being influences are just by several factors like the polls, the just a lot of the data has been pointing to kind of a Biden landslide, and we saw this a lot basically in June and July. But recently, we've seen a dramatic shift in favor of Trump, and this has been coming some in the form of polls, some in the form of just kind of maybe a lack of confidence that Joe Biden will be able to kind of be able to kind of like rally all the Democratic support and win over some of those swing voters. So let's see. Let me look in the chat real quick. Sir, I send super chat, not sure if you're seeing it. Florida primary in August have high Democratic turnout. Does this mean anything for November? I'm very sorry if I didn't see your super chat earlier, Parth. But yeah. So I did look at this data from the Florida primary, and I think if if we're looking at all the states that I think the state that should be most troubling for the Trump campaign and I guess most encouraging for the Biden campaign should be the state of Florida. Florida is a state that both candidates, it's kind of a must win. I think it's more of a must win for Trump because I think that Biden still has paths where he can win without Florida. If Biden still wins Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but doesn't win in Florida, then he still has a path to 270. But I think Florida is one of those states where we're going to see a leftward trend from 2016. Donald Trump won the state by 1.2 percentage votes, which is about 100,000 votes overall. So I definitely think that Biden is going to improve on Hillary Clinton's performance in Florida, but it's kind of just we don't really know if that's going to be enough to win the state at large. So that will definitely be interesting to look at going forward. Because I mean, Trump hasn't been leading in a single poll since I think about April, and I mean, Trump was leading in some of the polls going into the November election in 2016. But I mean, I haven't seen a poll that has Florida within 2 points. So every single poll that I've seen from Florida in the past 3 months has Biden +2, which is definitely not a good sign for the Trump campaign. Yo, do you see the comments? Now I do. I am very sorry for some little technical issues that I had at first, but right now I still do stand by my statement that I do think Florida will be the most important state in the 2020 election. I don't think Trump has a path to 270 without Florida. But we have seen general trends overall in many states. Like we just had some recent polls out of Michigan. I just did a video on that, and we have seen the betting odds converge very, very sharply. I had predicted that Trump would probably hit rock bottom in June, and he did. And now it's a pure toss up in terms of the betting odds. So you could bet on Trump or on Biden, and I mean it's really just a pure toss up at this point. The Nate Silver models and the JHK forecasts still have this race as being slightly favored towards Biden because I think just looking at the polls on the ground and just maybe looking at some other data, we still do see that Biden is doing better on that. But I think what we see with the betting odds is we see that Biden has more to lose. I think what the betting odds reflect is I think some of maybe the growing forecasts or the growing protests that are going on around the country. I think if we do see more violence in some cities and more looting, more rioting, I think this will help Trump's campaign because Trump can kind of project this law and order message. And I think Biden's response to these protests has been a little bit tepid because I think politically speaking, he supports the Black Lives Matter protest. But I mean, of course, I don't think it's that many politicians at all are going to promote violence on the streets, and like some of the images that we've been seeing from Portland and Seattle and Wisconsin recently, Minneapolis before. And Trump has always just taken a very, very firm stance on this. So I think if we kind of start seeing these events balloon, then it will be hard for kind of Biden to be in the middle on this issue. He's either going to have to come out against the violence or kind of not like necessarily kind of say that like, look, if it's fine if like there's a little bit of violence. Let me look at the super chat some, and I really would encourage you to send some super chats so I can just kind of support my channel, and also I can kind of message you directly after because I always want to communicate with my fans, and doing the super chats is one way that I can kind of talk to y'all individually. So let's see. Sebastian says, I currently live and work in Australia, and over here Trump is leading in the betting odds by 7. So I think in the next coming days, we're only going to see Trump's betting odds chances increase. We've seen them over the past week of the RNC that his betting odds have gone up 10 percentage points. And I mean, he was down to Biden by like 15 or 10 percentage points in the betting odds. And right now it's like 50-49. And some betting websites, like I think Betfair and Spread X now have it as a complete tie. Like the betting odds are even. And I think that some of the international betting odds definitely are a little bit ahead. But I think that Trump can ride this wave of momentum. I definitely think we can say that Trump has had a convention bump just looking at his betting odds. We haven't seen a ton of polling. I think the last polls came out on Friday, but I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of new polls coming into this next week. Let's see. What do I think about the third party candidates? I really don't think they're going to have much impact at all. I think probably the candidate that's going to get the most votes on election day will probably be Joe Jorgensen, who's the libertarian candidate for president. I really don't think that Kanye West is going to get much support at all. Parth, thank you so much for your super chat. And if you want to write a question or have a topic for me to focus on, I would really love to answer anything that you are that is on your mind. But Parth, thank you so much for your super chat. And if anyone else has a topic that they want me to focus on, or kind of because I have a lot of time going live, then I would love to do that. Let's see. So what was I talking about before? Third-party candidates. I really don't think that Kanye West is going to have much impact at all. What state does Joe Jorgensen have the most chance of winning? I don't think she has a chance of winning any state, just because that's the nature of it. If we look back at the 2016 election, we saw that Evan McMullen actually got over 20% of the vote in Utah. So if I had to pick any state where a third-party candidate has any chance at all, I would maybe say Utah because I think a lot of Republicans in Utah are not very happy with Donald Trump, but they're still very conservative and can't kind of stomach voting for a like pro-choice candidate, someone who, I mean, just who's a Democrat, frankly. So I think kind of the biggest path where I could see a third party candidate would kind of be maybe like the Never Trump conservative, but I really don't think there's a lot of Republicans who are still in the Republican Party who don't support Trump. We've seen a lot of very prominent or I mean, not super prominent Republicans, but um, kind of the ones who were never Trump at the start. They've kind of started to leave the Republican Party. I think Bill Kristol would probably we would say was the first one. But we see that John Kasich spoke at the Democratic National Convention. So I think most never Trump conservatives have left the party. And because I think they kind of realize that, look, Trump is the most important figure in the Republican Party. And I really don't see the Republican Party going back to kind of the Mitt Romney country club type Republican. And I mean, you can comment on whether you think that's good or not, but I think that's just kind of the nature of how our politics have changed. So, which state could Kanye have the most effect in? I've seen he's done a lot of campaigning in the state of South Carolina. I really don't consider South Carolina to be a swing state, but I think maybe he could connect some with some black voters in the South. I mean, I really don't think that Kanye West thinks that he has like a really viable path to the presidency. I mean, I think part of it is a little bit of a publicity stunt. Some people have kind of said that maybe he's doing it like just to help Trump out. I really don't think it's that simple. I don't think that Kanye West is going to get much many votes at all. I think what some people were thinking at first is that he would get some of the black vote, maybe steal that away from Joe Biden, and maybe that would have like a profound effect in a state like Michigan or North Carolina, some of these states that have higher black populations. But I really don't think that is going to happen that much. So let's see. Yeah, someone said I'd say the Never Trumpers are pretty much done. I would probably agree with you. I mean, there was a few Never Trump voices in 2016, but I think most like Republicans, conservatives who didn't like Trump ended up voting for him in 2016. Like some names that come to mind are like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, people who just hated Trump in the primary, but they really didn't want to see Hillary Clinton win in 2016. Going into 2020, I definitely think there is a more well-funded kind of never Trump conservative group, like looking at the Republican voters against Trump or the Lincoln Project. I really don't really think that the Lincoln Project is really a conservative group at all. Just kind of looking at up and down, like who are in the leadership positions there. So I really kind of think that like most kind of the never Trump conservatives have just kind of moved on policy as well. So it's more of just kind of they've had their blue pill movement, but that's pretty interesting. I'm just kind of looking at there. Who would you like to see in 2020 on both sides? So instead of trying to say who I think is going to be on the ballot or who I want to be on the ballot in 2024, I definitely think that if Biden were to win in 2020, and right now I really think it's a toss-up, then we're for sure going to see Kamala Harris on the ticket in 2024 on the Democratic side. I do not think Joe Biden would run for a second term if he wins in November this year. On the Republican side, I saw a poll out recently that said that Mike Pence is leading the field right now with 30%. But I think it could either be Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, I think Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio were up there too. I think Tim Scott was a name being thrown around, but um, I think honestly, like where there's kind of a lot of grassroots energy, kind of like in the same vein as Trump would be like a Tucker Carlson or like Candace Owens type figure. I really don't think they would have the appeal to be able to win. But I think that they could definitely get through a primary. Donald Trump Jr. is another name that's been thrown around, but I really don't think Donald Trump Jr. would have like as big of an appeal as his father Donald Trump have. All right, so I'm halfway through my live stream right now. Keep the chats coming. If you kind of want me to focus on a big topic, please put a super chat in. You just hit the dollar below. You can put in any amount of money from just like $1 to $5. I really appreciate the support from my subscribers. So let's see. Do you think Ron DeSantis has a shot of winning his reelection bid in 2022? I definitely think he does. In fact, Ron DeSantis won in 2018, which was a Democratic wave year. There was a lot of Democratic energy. Ron DeSantis was down in the polls. People counted him out, but he somehow won. And right after he got elected, his popularity numbers went through the roof. Because I think people kind of didn't know how he would govern, and I do think that he has kind of governed as a centrist, even though that a lot of people on the left just try to kind of tie him to Trump and just say, oh, he's just a Trump um, accolade. He has done a lot of things that, especially in relation to the environment, that people would probably say are probably very centrist and honestly were pretty popular around the state. I think with his coronavirus response in June and July, that hurt his poll numbers, but I still think that he will probably win in 2022 just because he has established himself as kind of a competent governor before the coronavirus. And I really don't think a lot of people are going to punish him that hard. I don't think their memories are long enough. Thank you so much, Shoop to Hoop. Keep up the great analysis. You are one of the sources I use to keep my bias in check. That is one of my main goals on this channel. I welcome people supporting Trump. I welcome people supporting Biden onto my channel, just because I really think that it is important that regardless of your bias, to kind of try to be as rational and reasonable as possible. Why do you think the election is a toss-up when a lot of the polls show Biden up? So in June, in July, I mean, I was not afraid to say I thought that Biden was going to win. Right now, I see the election as a toss-up because I see that Trump's position in the polls is improving. Trump is kind of on a surging streak. And I think that Biden is going to have to come out in person, and he's going to have to campaign a lot. He's gonna have to come out of his basement, as some people on the right say. And I think that when you see the contrast of Trump versus Biden, if you focus in on Biden, then I bet people will want to vote for Trump. But when you focus in on Trump, then kind of these swing voters will probably vote for Biden. So I think as the scope moves more towards Biden, then I think we are going to start seeing some of the polls shift a little bit towards Trump. So I think that the betting odds are a little bit ahead of the polls. I think that the polls will kind of follow them right now. So I think that when a lot of people saw these double-digit leads by Biden, that the betting odds followed and dropped. But now we are starting to see some evidence in the polls, like the recent polls out of Michigan, that have Trump ahead. And I mean, having Trump leading in Michigan in any poll, it was just unheard of. And I think there's going to be a lot of voter enthusiasm on both sides. I think Trump's base is as energized as they could be with like all these protests and riots going on. I think they're itching to get to the ballot box, but also on Biden's side, I think Biden has done a better job than Hillary Clinton did in kind of getting in the Bernie Sanders supporters. I think there's a lot of social justice energy. I mean, just watching basketball, just in the past week, I mean, you can't watch a game without seeing like ads saying "Go vote." So I think there's definitely more unity and more energy on the left than there was in 2016, because I think Hillary Clinton was a little bit of a divisive figure, even though that I think a lot of people were very excited to potentially vote for the first female president. I think she was definitely more divisive than Biden has been in terms of in Democratic circles. But on the flip side, just looking at kind of the polls that rank voter enthusiasm, we can see that the like Trump's base is more energized now in 2020 than they were in 2016. And just looking at the voter enthusiasm on both sides, we actually see that Trump's voters, or people who say that they're voting for Trump, have more enthusiasm. So will that matter that much? I still think that people who aren't crazy about Biden but are planning to vote for him will probably turn out to vote just because they don't like Trump enough. But I mean, with the whole voter by mail thing, I mean, I think that's definitely going to take a lot more energy. You're going to have to like fill out a thing, like put a stamp on it, like fill out all these forms. Will people want to do that? Are people going to be scared to vote in person because of the coronavirus? I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that just make this election a toss up. So thank you for the question. I think that was Benjamin Albuquerque. And Shoop to Hoop, thank you again for the super chat. I'm going to be going in 8 minutes, so if you want me to focus on a certain subject, please leave a super chat, and you can just put a little message underneath it, and I can kind of focus on that for the rest of the time because I'm going to sign off pretty soon. Why do you think Maine is going red? I don't think Maine is going red. I think that Maine's second congressional district is going to go red because it went red in 2016. So I think on my last video, when I kind of showed the electoral map, the second district is a lot bigger in terms of geographical size, which makes sense. Trump usually wins the big geographical regions in the state because those typically tend to be more rural, while the Hillary Clinton and Biden tend to kind of get the concentrations of smaller geographical states in the city. So, I mean, I don't think Biden's definitely going to win the first congressional district. I still think Biden's going to win the state of Maine at large, but I think Trump is going to win this Maine's second congressional district because they allocate their electoral votes a little differently. Let's see, Shoop to Hoop. I'm going to answer your question again since you left the super chat. Oh, Parth, thank you so much. Let's see, Parth, I will answer your question because you left another super chat, so thank you so much. Sir, Trump support base turnout in full swing in 2016. Some say Democrats did not turn out confidence in victory. I think this definitely affected some of the voting results that we saw in 2016. We saw a lot of people kind of voting for Jill Stein and third-party candidates, probably more left-wing people who would have voted for Hillary Clinton because they thought she was already going to win. Democrats turn out in large number and will hurt Trump unless he gets Johnson and Hillary voters. I think this is very possible, but there were also some polls that suggested that some of the people who did not vote in 2016, especially in the Rust Belt, kind of the like the white working class, which there is a lot of in states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, just based on their demographics, would probably be more likely to vote for Trump. So I think that increased voter turnout could go either way. I think overall in the country, I think Biden's probably going to win the popular vote by more than Hillary Clinton in 2016. But the popular vote is not what matters. It's the electoral college only. Um, so I think that's definitely huge. So Parth, thank you so much for your question. Please leave in the chat if I answered it or not, because you've donated twice on the super chat, which is very, very generous. And before I sign off, if you have any kind of like really pressing questions that you want to do, please leave a super chat and I'll be able to answer that for sure. And while I'm kind of waiting for that, I'll kind of answer some of these questions, even though there's kind of a lot. I do think we're going to see record viewership for the debates. For the debates, I'm gonna live stream during the debates for my live reaction, and I'm going to kind of like do a pre-show and post-show. So please get pumped for that because I'm really excited to watch the debates. Let's see. Vote by mail also has an interesting effect. I thought of they come out early so people may procrastinate versus vote in person, which is a live one-time event. What side does procrastination favor? I think voting in person is definitely an advantage. I think voting by mail, there's a lot of issues with it. But also with like voting by mail, like people aren't going to get stuck in traffic or they're not going to have a hard day at work and just want to come home. However, I mean, we've even seen this with some of the primary races. Like I don't think there's going to be massive voter fraud with vote by mail, but I'm personally going to vote in person. I trust that better. And there were some issues in some primaries, like I think in the New Jersey primary, like 20% of the ballots were like thrown out maybe. So I mean, I wouldn't even trust something that like would have like a 2 or 3% rejection rate. So I definitely am gonna vote in persons, but that definitely adds an extra thing. Parth, thank you, sir. Florida primary in August have 65% of the voters vote by mail. Yeah, this is true. I think in Florida, we're going to see a lot more people vote by mail. I do think that the coronavirus is not going to be as big of a factor come November. I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I really don't know. But I mean, I definitely think it will still have an impact, especially with kind of more older voters who might be a little more afraid to vote in person. Random question out of nowhere. Do you think Al Gore really won Florida in 2000? It's really hard to know. The literature that I've actually read probably would have said that like if they'd done a recount in like certain areas that Al Gore won. But I think what was even more of a factor is that on election day in the panhandle, because part of Florida is on the eastern time zone, part of it is on the central time zone. Apparently there was like an estimated like 100,000 voters who were voting in the central time zone that were told that the that there were poll closings, that 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 the polls were closed because they were going off Eastern time zone, not Central time zone. So there is an estimate 100,000 people who didn't go out to vote who lived in the Panhandle that would have voted. And if you know the state of Florida, the Panhandle is a lot more conservative than the state of Florida at large. Given that, people say that if like all things being even, that George Bush actually probably would have expanded his victory if everything had happened. Will you be live streaming for the Massachusetts primary on Tuesday? I will if people want me to. I definitely think that this Senate race, the Senate primary race, has gotten a lot more attention than it probably should have. It's a safe Democratic seat. It really doesn't matter which Democrat wins. I think people just get really excited to see a Kennedy. I don't think Kennedy will win right now. I think I saw on Twitter today that Beto O'Rourke endorsed Kennedy, but I just really don't think it matters. All right, guys, I'm probably going to sign off in the next minute unless I kind of get another super chat where someone's really pumped about for me to talk something. Normally I like to keep these videos to 30 minutes, but if any of y'all kind of have any last pressing things, I would love to address it. Otherwise, I'll probably just get on at a separate time. Also, I'm going to try to be able to do it where I can share my screen. I still haven't figured that out completely yet. But if y'all know any software or anything that would actually be very helpful, because I would love to have kind of a visual thing where I can like show you like where the betting odds right now. And just one last thing before I get off, I would encourage you to kind of look at the betting odds. I think it's very interesting to look at. Okay, I'll answer this last question and get off. Do you think Trump will win Pennsylvania? Please answer. Right now, if I think election day were right now, then I would probably say that Biden would win by less than a percentage point. But I think if Trump continues on the trends that he is now, then I think that Trump will probably win Pennsylvania again. I understand that Biden has a lot of close ties in the state of Pennsylvania, but before the coronavirus hit, we saw a lot of polls that had Trump up versus Biden. I think that just the state of Pennsylvania has changed a lot in recent years, and that Trump just really has kind of transformed the electoral map with this kind of unique appeal to kind of like the white working class that typically, like a union household, typically voted for the Democrats, like Al Gore, John Kerry. I mean, even people who voted for Barack Obama twice, but now they're voting for Trump. I mean, 9 million people voted for Barack Obama and also voted for Donald Trump, which surprises a lot of people. But I think that's definitely what tilted the election in 2016. And I mean, we will see if there's any kind of Trump Biden voters. I think there definitely will be a few, but there also could be some Clinton Trump voters. I mean, I think we'll probably see more Trump Biden voters, but I think it would be very, very interesting. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you all for joining my live live stream, and I'll see y'all later.